All right, we are back. It is Thursday, May 7th, 2020. How's everybody doing? All right, we're going to pick up where we left off. We're going to go off the same slides that we used yesterday, but we're just going to go through the second half of those slides. So, approximately, I think this is slide 14. So, we're going to be looking at what happened after the election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860. So as you can see, this blue underlined word, secede right here, that is linked. That is an important term we're going to be talking about today. To secede means to withdraw, in this case, to withdraw from the Union, that is the United States of America. Southern states start doing that shortly after Lincoln wins that election in 1860. So even before the election in November of 1860, Southerners had warned that if Lincoln won the presidency, remember, there were 4 people running for president that year. If Lincoln ended up being victorious, which he was, Southern states threatened to secede or withdraw from the Union. You can kind of see in this picture down here what secession might look like. You see this big chunk of land down here, the South, breaking off from the rest of the United States. I mean, it didn't physically break off like that, you understand. It was not like a giant fault line in there where it split up, but they broke off and started to form their own confederation. All right, so what did the Southerners believe? Well, they based their arguments for secession or seceding from the Union on the idea of states' rights. That's going to be really important to understand this. States' rights means that states have certain rights that the federal government could not take away or overrule. And they also figured that since they had voluntarily joined the Union, meaning they weren't forced to do it, they could voluntarily leave the Union too. So on December 20th, 1860, this is just about 6 weeks after the election of Abraham Lincoln, South Carolina becomes the first state to secede from the Union. Remember, South Carolina had threatened this earlier during the during the presidency of Andrew Jackson during the nullification crisis, but they didn't secede then. They do this time in 1860. States in the deep South where the economy depended on cotton production soon followed. So they went Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas. And here's a little known fact. States left the Union, they seceded in the order of the percentage of slaves in their population. So South Carolina had the highest percentage of slaves in their population, followed by Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, all the way down the line. Little known fact. These states came together to form the beginnings of a new country called the Confederate States of America, or the CSA. We're the USA, they're the CSA. And they named Jefferson Davis as the president of the Confederacy. This is Jefferson Davis right here. So the Confederate Constitution was written, and it borrowed really heavily from the United States Constitution. It pretty much took it and just modified it to their own to their liking. So, however, there were differences between the United States Constitution and the Confederate Constitution. One of them was about states' rights. There was more support for states' rights in the Confederate Constitution than the U.S. Constitution. The Confederate Constitution also protected slavery. It protected slavery in the territories in the West and any territory that may become part of the Confederacy at a later date. So how does the Union respond to this? When we say Union now, we're talking about the states that did not secede from the United States. So essentially the North. Northerners saw the South secession as unconstitutional, and they believed that states did not have the right to secede from the Union because the federal government, not state governments, were sovereign or had the power to make that decision. So here's one thing that people kind of lose in the study of this. So this is all happening in December of 1860. Lincoln has won the presidency, but at this point, when the states start seceding, he's what we would call president-elect. He has won the election, but he has not taken office. He has not been inaugurated yet. That happens in January now, but in 1861, that happened on March 4th. So while South Carolina is seceding, James Buchanan, the 15th president, is still in office. He's often regarded as possibly the worst president we've ever had, although he has some stiff competition from some other people in this era. James Buchanan at the time believed that if secession was permitted, the Union would become weak like a rope of sand. That's a great visual right there. Can you imagine what a rope of sand would look like? It's not something that would be strong enough to hold anything together. So here's a little contrast right here. Southerners complained that Northerners would use the power of majority rule to abolish or get rid of slavery. So since there were more people in the North, they had more representation in the House than people in this, or than states in the South, and they were worried that majority rule in the legislature of the United States could end up leading to the abolition of slavery throughout the country. Northerners believed that Southerners were not willing to live with the election results. They thought they were poor losers. Your candidate didn't win. It was John Breckinridge who got the most support in the South. He didn't win, so they thought that the South was just kind of taking their ball and going home with it. So there was a last-ditch effort to save the Union. It was called the Crittenden Compromise. So this is it. The Crittenden Compromise, presented by Senator John Crittenden of Kentucky. Kentucky is going to be one of those border states between the Union and the Confederacy. Crittenden presented this plan to protect slavery south of the Missouri Compromise line. I'm tracing it with the pointer right now. It's the line all the way back from 1820, the southern border of Missouri, that said slavery could not go or could not spread north of this line. So he kind of revived that idea of going back to that original compromise line. And it had some support, but it was ended up being defeated in the Senate. So the Crittenden Compromise doesn't really go anywhere. It was a great idea. It was a last chance effort or last ditch effort to preserve the Union. There's a link here to learn more about this. All right, so then President Abraham Lincoln was inaugurated as our 16th President of the United States on March 4th, 1861. What would the new president do? I'm going to have you listen to this right here. Here's some a couple guides right here to help you find the stuff that I really want you to pay attention to today. Okay. And don't worry about this. I'm going to include a Google form in Google Classroom. This is a chart that's on page 503 of the book. You can use your book if you have it with you, but I understand some people don't have their textbook, so you can access the same chart by clicking on this link right here. Happy Thursday. I hope you're all well. Miss you.